Chiefs Kingdom, welcome into a brand new episode of the Chiefs Report by Chad Sports, and good morning. We usually don't film this early, but we've got breaking news for you guys. Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs have officially agreed to restructure his contract for the 2026 season and going forward. We're going to break down the details of that restructure on today's show. We're going to talk about what it means for the Kansas City Chiefs, how much cap space they saved, and then what comes next, because they're absolutely not done yet. But before we get into that section of today's show, if you're fired up about the Chiefs really getting started, because this is the beginning of a number of aggressive moves, in my opinion, that are going to put the Chiefs right back on track to making next year's Super Bowl, to getting back into being one of the best teams in the NFL again after a down year. But you've got to start by creating cap space. So this is the first of what I think you could call a saga of moves to get the Chiefs back on track, a rebirthing process that has to happen this offseason. But it all starts with something we kind of knew was coming: the restructure of Patrick Mahomes' contract. And I say we kind of knew this was coming because if you've been a subscriber of this channel for a while, when we talked about our perfect offseason video, we talked about this absolutely needing to happen. I think this was the first thing that we hit on the perfect offseason video, because the cap space that the Kansas City Chiefs just created with this move is absolutely enormous, and it is absolutely essential. Let's get into the brass tacks of things here. So, Patrick Mahomes, prior to today, before we all woke up this morning, was on the books for over $70 million in just 2025. That was his cap hit for 2025, was set to be north of $70 million. That is pretty much untenable. That's eating up almost 30% of the Kansas City Chiefs cap space on just one player. And you just can't afford to do that. That's more than you can spend on one guy. So we've got to find a way to restructure that deal. Now, what does restructuring mean in this instance? If you're not familiar, it means dumping salary cap money into future years of the deal. Sometimes they're void years to make sure you can maximize your dump possibility. And then that money becomes guaranteed. So the Kansas City Chiefs essentially took $43.5 million of Patrick Mahomes' salary in this year's contract and rolled it forward, making it now distribute to future seasons and guaranteeing that cash to Patrick Mahomes. So his contract number does go up down the line. I believe for 2027, he's now on the books at $85 million. So we're definitely going to have another restructure coming very soon for him. We'll be in this same position next year talking about this once again. And then you just kind of have to keep going year by year making those moves until you fully extend the deal. And then you can kind of get out of the cycle of restructuring. But that will come down the line. I'm honestly surprised the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes have not worked out a long-term extension just yet. I wouldn't be shocked if they do that either at some point this offseason or at some point next offseason to create more cap clearance flexibility for the Kansas City Chiefs, and also to ensure that Patrick Mahomes has a long-term future, because at this point, his contract, obviously the $70 million from the restructures is nice, but he would like more on the guaranteed end. He'd like to be more in line with some of the other quarterback money. So I think there's interest in both sides in getting a new deal done at some point in the very near future. So watch out for that. But I wouldn't say that that's next on the Kansas City Chiefs agenda or next on the Kansas City Chiefs priority list. Next on the Kansas City Chiefs priority list absolutely has to be creating more cap space. Because if you can believe it, and I don't think I've already said it, we're still not in the green yet after the Patrick Mahomes restructure. After saving $43.5 million restructuring Patrick Mahomes' contract, moving his cap number down from over $70 million to under $34 million, or under $35 million, it's going to be right at $34 million, we're still not in the green. We still have negative $11 million in cap space. You've still got to find a way to create a lot more space, and there's a lot more things that we can do that we've discussed in our perfect offseason videos, and that we'll discuss again in just 1 second. But first, I've got to give a shout out to the sponsor of today's video, and guys, That is the friends over at Prize Picks. Shoot your shot on Prize Picks and get $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. That's right. Prize Picks is now giving you $50 in lineups when you sign up and play your first $5. Prize Picks makes every dunk, every dime, and every board that much more exciting. So don't miss this chance to get started on America's #1 app for sports picks. Prize Picks is simple to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. Pick from all your favorite sports. Anything from basketball, baseball, hockey, UFC, soccer, college basketball, tennis, golf, esports, and more. Guys, I've got my lineup going on a little bit of soccer action today. I'm going with the more on Nico Paz's shots on goal, and I'm going with the more on Julian Alvarez's shots on goal. A little bit of soccer action. You can tell me on that. You can fade me on that. If you want to, just do it at Prize Picks and join millions of users by signing up for America's #1 sports picks app. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Indeed. And right now, the Kansas City Chiefs need to continue the process that they got started with Patrick Mahomes' restructure today. They need to continue creating cap space. I think they might make some of these moves today. They might make some of these moves tomorrow, but they're absolutely in the next, I'd say 72 hours, going to be aggressive. They got it started today. No reason to slow down now because you're not done yet. Like we talked about before we shouted out Prize Picks, you're still 11.3 million under the cap, or over the cap, excuse me. You still have that much space to create just to be able to do anything this offseason. So let's talk about a couple things that the Kansas City Chiefs can do. Number one that I want to talk about, the easiest thing that you can do is continue the restructure pattern. So first, before we get to that, actually, let's just cut Jawaan Taylor. Let's do that. Let's cut Jawaan Taylor. Let's save ourselves $20 million by releasing Jawaan Taylor. That easy enough. Now what are we at? $8.6 million in free cap. We've created a good deal of money doing that. Now we're in the green, but not really in the green to the degree where we could actually do anything. So we're not quite there yet, but cutting Jawaan Taylor itself, that's definitely step number one. That's going to save you $20 million. We've talked over and over again about how we are ready to move on from Jawaan Taylor as a team. The Kansas City Chiefs have paths to success without Jawaan Taylor. We saw that this year when he didn't play. We saw Esopole step up really nice. We saw Jalen Moore have good games for this team, although I feel like he started to trend down a little bit. But Esopole, Jalen Moore, and Josh Simmons coming back on the left side of the line, we're ready to go without Jawaan Taylor. We do not need to retain Jawaan Taylor to continue finding success along the offensive line. We can move on from him at this point and get back into the green. So that's easy, in my opinion. I think that's a foregone conclusion. Every Chiefs fan knows that that's coming. But what else can you do here? Chris Jones. Let's talk about Chris Jones. We could restructure Chris Jones, but I honestly don't know that that's the best decision, given that he's 32 years old, and it's going to make it tougher to get Chris Jones off the books next season if he doesn't come back and play really strong this year, and you decide, you know what, we just can't afford to spend the amount of money that we'd be spending on Chris Jones. Because if you restructure this deal, his contract in 2027 becomes, according to Over the Cap, a $49.3 million cap hit next year. Saddle that up with Patrick Mahomes' $85.2 million cap hit, and that is north of $130 million of your cap on two guys. That's pretty untenable. I don't think restructuring Chris Jones is the right decision for the Kansas City Chiefs at this point, even though it would save you a nice $22.5 million. I think you got to leave that contract alone. I think you can get cap freedom from Trey Smith's restructure, which is going to be another $12.5 million. We're okay with restructuring Trey Smith. He's still playing phenomenal football. I don't care that we'd be a little bit more committed to him than we already are. I'm okay with being committed to Trey Smith. I'm also okay with being committed to Creed Humphrey. Best center in football. Let's restructure his deal as well. Roll $8.8 million down the line. Kick that can down the road a little bit with him. And now we've gone from negative $11 million before we released Jawaan Taylor after we restructured Patrick Mahomes this morning And now, with the 2 additional restructures plus the cut of Jawan Taylor, we're sitting on $30 million in cap space. Made that happen just like that. Really quick, really easy. You can make some of these moves. So I expect that Jawan Taylor will be released. I expect Trey Smith and Creed Humphrey to get restructured over the next couple of days. Couple other things that you might be able to do. We've talked about cutting Drew Tranquill. That saves you another $6 million. Hey, we're at $36 million. Cut Shamari Connor. We're at $39.6 million. There's a lot of ways. Cut Mike Dana. $48 million in cap space. $48.5 million in cap space. And we still didn't have to touch Chris Jones' contract. Chris Jones' contract is left as is. We don't have to do anything with it. His cap figure for next season will be $38 million. And it's $38 million that you can get $18.6 million back in cap savings on if you do decide to move off of Chris Jones, if that's something that the Kansas City Chiefs ultimately decide to do. So you're incredibly flexible on that contract as well. This is the perfect offseason for the Kansas City Chiefs based off of what you've already done. We basically just did it again. I know we already did our perfect offseason video, but this is the continuation of the Patrick Mahomes restructure. You've got to continue to hit these milestone markers. You know what I mean? This is the first one. Okay, milestone 1, we restructured Patrick Mahomes. Milestone 2, cut Jawan Taylor. Milestones 3 and 4 can be a little bit of whatever you want, but it's got to be some combination of cutting guys like Mike Dana, cutting guys like Shamari Connor. Is Drew Tranquill going to stay or go? Are we restructuring Trey Smith or Creed Humphrey? Because I don't know. We did everything that we did. We're at but $48.5 million in cap space. That's a ton of cap. That's a boatload of cap. You may not need every penny of that. You may be able to, hey, you know what? We actually want to keep Drew Tranquill around. We'll keep him and just be at 42.5. We could still be very aggressive with $42.5 million in cap space, and we can keep around an inside linebacker. Or maybe you want to keep Shamari Connor. These are going to be decisions that the Chiefs will make over the next couple of weeks. If I had to predict one, I would think they'd keep Drew Tranquill. But I think it'll be very interesting to watch and to monitor over the next couple of weeks, and we will keep you updated on it. So make sure you've hit that subscribe button if you haven't already to stay up to date on everything you need around the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes' contract restructured today to save Kansas City $43.5 million, but a lot more on the way. This is not the end of the Chiefs' offseason. They are not done yet. They've got to create more cap space. They've got to do it fast before the new league year starts on March 11th. We'll keep you updated on that quest to do so and what they decide to do. So once again, make sure you're locked in, and we'll see you in the next one.